Being a mom is like 1,000 little jobs wrapped up into one amazing responsibility. I know from watching my own mom and how crazy it is switching back and forth from traumatic nurse to afternoon mathematician, from organizer-in-chief to five-star chef. This Mother's Day, show her how much you appreciate every job she does with a special limited-time offer from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you get ahead of the Mother's Day rush, 1-800-Flowers will give you an exclusive 36 for 36 offer. 36 sorbet roses for just $36. That's only $1 per rose. With an impressive mix of pastel shades in pink, orange, and lavender, these roses are guaranteed to make her smile. Stunning sorbet roses are the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life. Wife, aunt, sister, mother. These breathtaking roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 36 sorbet roses for only $36. It's an amazing offer, but hurry because it expires Friday. Just pick your delivery date and 1-800-Flowers will handle the rest. Don't put this off, guys. Order today from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's what mom would want you to do. To order 36 sorbet roses for only $36, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click on the radio icon, and enter code WINGO. That's 1-800-Flowers.com, code WINGO. Hurry, the offer ends Friday.
It's April, and some things are winding up like baseball, and some things are winding down like hockey. Thankfully, Pennzoil Synthetics provides your vehicle with complete protection for top engine performance no matter what season it is, so you don't have to worry about ups and downs. Pennzoil, make the switch.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Golic and Wingo. Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Going old school today. No ESPN news, no fancy cameras, just two guys, a microphone, and a studio. Dad, this has to feel kind of like a throwback to the yesteryear. I've seen all the old Mike and Mike pictures of you guys in the closet. Oh, man, you got bailed out hard. You're lucky Cliff can't see your microphone.
I did.
Now.
Justin helped me out here because Justin goes old school with me. We are old school. Just on radio, we're here in Dallas at 103.3 ESPN and doing our show. This is like when I would do shows on the road very early on in Mike and Mike, and I was calling college games. I would go on the road, and I would be in this is before the colleges had the incredible setups that they have. I'd be in closets, basically. Luckily, this is way nicer than that. And just doing the old radio, my picture wouldn't be up by. This is even before Mike and Mike was on TV. So this is back to the roots a little bit, something you know nothing about. This is your millennials. You have no clue about this kind of radio and broadcasting.
Except this is literally the show I do every day from 4 to 6 in the morning before I come over to you.
Other than that, you have no idea what's going on.
Other than that, and I just want it on the record that before we turned the microphones on, my dad looks over at me, dead serious, and says, the best part about not being on TV today is I can put on my glasses whenever I want.
That's exactly right. I need those. I need the cheaters. I absolutely need the cheaters. Again, we're down here in Dallas for the draft. Trey Wingo, who's normally part of the show, he will be here in the middle 2 hours of the show today from basically 7 to 9 Eastern
7
time.
7 to 9 Eastern.
We're on Central Time here. It's always a bit messy when we do something like that because we're dumb.
Yeah, no, it takes a little while for us to adjust to most anything, let alone time and time zones and all those concepts. But yeah, Trey's going to be part of ESPN's big, awesome draft coverage going on in the big stage over as we get ready down here in Dallas at Jerry World. So he'll be covering that for you guys later in the afternoon. And so we're bailing him out a little bit in the morning because we know Trey needs his rest.
Yeah, he'll be with us 2 hours today, 2 hours tomorrow, and 1 hour on Friday. As Mike said, we get ready for the NFL draft. Obviously, a lot of news about that as we get deeper and deeper and dive into that. We finally have the controversy in New England and any kind of rumors going out over, which we'll get into about who's playing next year and who's not. And I think, Mike, one of the great things that you and I can do is we can, throughout the show, relive our draft day and being at the draft site of wherever it was when we were, being drafted. For me, it was New York, and hanging out at there in the green room, getting ready for the draft and get
great snacks. Great snacks back in that.
That's right. Room. Neither of us were at the draft, were we? Yeah.
No.
Well, you know what we can do? We can explain it from the other side, from the majority.
Talk to us on Saturday, and we'll let you really know how it's going to go when we get down to the guys that matter, the guys that are going to be your brick and mortar of the team.
The diamonds in the rough. That's where the real men are chosen in this draft.
Man, I tell you what, the draft is all about cliches and euphemisms. Yeah. That day of the draft, maybe more so than any, is where we really have to try and justify our existence in a way that sounds a lot nicer than, Yeah, they decided you were really, really not worth it until the end.
Yeah,
so.
the way they can put things, because we both came at it a little differently. I made it into the draft in the 10th of 12 rounds. You did not make
brag.
it. You did not make it into the draft, but still you were taking phone calls from teams in like the 5th round, the way the whole undrafted thing works. So again, we'll get into that, but that is really where a lot of the draft is made. You're hoping in that first round, all the names that get talked about that we're going to talk about, you want like immediate production out of them. But it's those guys taken later in the draft that end up being the core to your team and end up really making or breaking a coach on players that he can find to see how well a team can do.
Yep, so we've seen teams like the Seahawks, the Patriots for years build in those later rounds and create some of the future stars of tomorrow and some of the sports talk radio hosts of today very, very soon. But in the meantime, one of the other things that I'm always excited about on this show is the massive generation gap between the two of us. So we will have education time when it comes to Meek Mill and what the hell happened in Philadelphia last night with the freeing of a rapper and a social media phenomenon. But before we do that, we start today, as we start every day, going off the top.
It's time for
Off the Top
Whether you like it or not,
It's just beginning.
with Golic and Wingo.
And we begin off the top as I pay my homage to Trey Wingo with that throw there, with the Warriors defeating the Spurs Tuesday to advance to the Western Conference semifinals, where they'll meet the New Orleans Pelicans. The Warriors swept the Pels in the 2015 first round, Anthony Davis's only other postseason appearance.
Yeah, you look at these two teams as we look forward to it. Warriors won 3 of the 4 games against Pelicans this year. DeMarcus Cousins, though, played in 3 of those 4 games. In the game Cousins missed, Steph Curry was also not there, and Steph Curry very well may not be around for this one either. And we know Boogie Cousins is also gone here. But this one last night, Draymond Green had a monster game for Golden State. 17 points, 19 rebounds, averaged 18 rebounds the last 2 games that they played. Kevin Durant there with 25 points. Klay Thompson with 24. I was amazed, Mike, in the last game, that the one game they lost to the Spurs, and again, thoughts and prayers out to Greg Popovich and the family. He's missed a couple games with the passing, obviously, of his wife, Erin. But the Spurs got that one win, and all the talk all of a sudden, oh my gosh, Golden State misses Steph. The other guys, who's going to take the shot? Come on. I mean, seriously, this Warriors team, I still think, is the best in the Western Conference. We'll see when they get Steph back. And they ended a series we all knew was going to end with either a sweep or, in this case, it was going to be 5 games.
Yeah, and the Warriors understand the value of this. That was the only thing I was shocked by, that a team with the championship clout the Warriors have, who understand the importance of closing an opponent out when it's time, let the Spurs get that one game back into this. But they end that last night. Draymond Green, who you mentioned, had a great ode to Greg Popovich after the game,
he did, yeah,
in the press conference. And all of these guys were cognizant that this series was a little bit bigger than what we just saw on the court.
And how much are we looking forward? As I said yesterday, I'm starting already to look forward to that second round, this matchup and the Houston and Utah matchup. Obviously, we'll get to at some point, but this one, the way Anthony Davis, we know how great he's been, but he's been nicked up, obviously, a little bit in the past couple of years, but the way he's playing right now, this could be a real interesting series.
I mentioned yesterday one of the best performers of this playoff run that we've seen, but I neglected his teammate and one of the guys in the backcourt there, Drew Holiday, who's been a star.
Yes, he has.
So far, as we continue with
Off the Top.
the 76ers beat the Heat Tuesday to win their first playoff series since 2012. Philadelphia will face the winner of the Milwaukee and Boston winner in the next round. According to the BPI, the Sixers would have an 80% chance to beat the Bucks and just a 49% chance to beat the Boston Celtics.
Here's the interesting thing for me. The last couple of games, or early on, that this entire series had been the fourth quarter for the 76ers. I believe coming into this game, they had outscored the Heat by 42 in the fourth quarter. Now this was the third quarter game. This was a close game, tie game at halftime, 46-all, but it's a 14-point edge for the 76ers in the third quarter. So that's where they made their jump. Normally it had been in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Heat by 78 points in the second half. That's the largest second half margin in a single playoff series since the Nuggets were plus 86 over the then New Orleans Hornets in the second half of their first round series back in 2009. So the way I always talk about this really in any sport. How do you come out of the locker room? You take that break. How do you come out of the locker room? What adjustments are made and how well can you perform from there? So here it was the third quarter. Before it had been the fourth quarter for them, but either way, it's been the second half for the 76ers and how well they played. Last night, it was J.J. Redick leading the way, I believe, with 27 points.
Yeah, J.J. Redick been a big part of it, the veteran presence in that locker room, and J.J. Redick, a guy we'll hear from in a little bit about the mindset of this team going forward, but it's just been such a turnaround for this group win total-wise. Their 56th win of the season last night after totaling 56, I believe, the entire 3 years combined. So the Philadelphia 76ers made the switch from a bad team to a good team in a very short amount of time, making the switch. Brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. We'll get into plenty more news from Philadelphia.
There's a lot more
night
going on in Philadelphia on and off the course.
Yeah, we got to peel back that onion in a little bit, but for right now, we'll continue with
Off the Top.
The NBA playoffs continue Wednesday as the Cavaliers return home, looking to take a 3-2 series lead against the Pacers. With a loss, LeBron James would face elimination in a first-round series for the first time in his NBA career.
Yeah, something he's certainly not used to, a guy averaging 32, 11, and 8 for this series. He's about to become the NBA playoff leader in steals. He has 393, 3 steals away from passing Scottie Pippen for the most in playoff history. That became an official stat back in 1973. But as you mentioned it, this has been a series, and this again has been LeBron James basically doing this by himself, and just how far can he carry this team. I think already there are those, I may be one included, I think they've already had more trouble in this series than some thought they would have. And I believe I said the Cavs in 6 or 5 or 6 in this one, and certainly they may need everyone. They're going to need at least 6 games, if not 7. We'll see how this one comes out tonight. Game 5 winner of a best-of-7 series, tied at 2-2, has gone on to win a series 83% of the time. So big win out, a big game. I would expect LeBron to come out strong again, like he did in Game 2 of this series.
Yeah, this reeks of that opportunity here. Now, on the off chance that LeBron James did go down in this series, he's won 3 of the last 4 that he's trailed 3-2 in. But the Cavs, you can't let it get to that point now. There's no amount of matching suits that would be able to elevate you out of that panic. And I'm with you. I think I picked the Cavs in 3 to start this series. But Victor Oladipo and company had other plans in mind. He's been sensational to start this series, but Victor Oladipo is someone that I overlooked, the Pacers I overlooked, and I owe them an apology. As we continue now, there's someone I owe a bigger apology as we continue with
Off the Top.
Al Horford. Around the All-Star break, I slandered Al Horford in ways that were crass, offensive, and now I have to own up to my mistake.
Yeah, you got to walk that one back.
Al Horford had 22 points and 14 rebounds as the Celtics beat the Bucks 92-87 on Tuesday night to take a 3-2 series lead. And Al Horford, old man buckets, has been absolutely giving work to Giannis and this young Bucks squad.
A little bit of controversy with a little over a minute in that game. They were up 5, and a Horford shot looked like it was after the shot clock had gone off, and he missed it, but the Celtics got the rebound, and the Bucks had to foul and go down that road. But there was the coach yelling, a player saying, wait, there was a shot clock violation. They didn't get the call there. As I mentioned, it's a 5-point game with a little over a minute to go. You wondered if the Bucks could make that run right at the end there to catch them. What I thought was surprising, Antetokounmpo, just 10 shots in this game, dishing the ball out a little bit more. He had 10 rebounds and he had 9 assists in this one. But as I mentioned, just 10 shots. It was Middleton with 21 shots. Bledsoe had 15 shots. He had a big one late in this game as well. But I thought the lack of shot taking by Antetokounmpo was interesting. And then, listen, every game has a call here or a call there. You know, for a foul call, that's more obviously subjective. You know, but you look at if the shot clock did, go off and did end, then that would be a clear mistake.
It would be. And to your point about Giannis, I thought it was interesting just the mode that he was in. We always throw this criticism LeBron James way, but Giannis had 21 assist attempts or assist creations last night, and his teammates were 9 of 21 off that. So he was looking to be deferential for whatever reason. And after his big coming out party in last year's playoffs, because what we're seeing from Ben Simmons and a lot of these younger guys this round feels like what we got out of Giannis last year. And now we're starting to get to the point where we're seeing some of the deficiencies of this Bucks team overall, and now wondering going forward how we start to transition the way we approach him as a player.
And what people are going to start to say about him is what they said about LeBron. They've said about LeBron for his career, but going back in recent history, Game 1, quit dishing the ball so much. Do it yourself. When he came out in Game 2, LeBron against the Pacers and did that, when that's exactly what Antetokounmpo, you're right, deferring to teammates. And he's got some good teammates, but at the end, you want, okay, Giannis, take the shot, take the ball, do your thing like he's done in a decent amount of this series.
Yep, that's the maturation process we expect with all these guys. And it is worth noting that while I will publicly apologize to Al Horford, my take was not unfounded. The last pick in the All-Star draft.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
And you hit the buzzer.
Deserves a little bit. That was purely on accident. As we continue with
Off the top.
Dad, this one's going to feel pretty good for you. Shohei Ohtani reached 101 miles per hour Tuesday, the fastest by any starter this season, but struggled with his control against the Astros as he issued 5 walks, more than his first 3 starts combined. And I know this is something you're going to be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to Shohei the way.
Now I believe is tied on the season with home runs given up and home runs given.
Given up, I believe, given up 3 and hit 3. Yes, so we have that. We'll keep that count, that tracker going for the entire season. But, he's got the velocity down. 100-mile-an-hour pitches by starters this season. Ohtani has 8 in his first 3 starts, 8 of them. Every other starter in the league has 9, so he's humming it. But, again, the lack of control, gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, had 7 strikeouts. This continues to me. It still does. It's a great story given the fact of his age coming over. Could have waited a couple more years, got way more money, wanted to come over now, had the spring where you went, ooh, okay, maybe this is a little early, had the good start to the season. I still think it's a great story going forward, but it's a long season for a young player. Mike Trout, the offense bailed this team out. Trout ends up hitting his 10th home run in April. Mike Trout is doing Mike Trout things. I mean, best player in baseball that hasn't won enough MVP awards.
Yeah, casually leading the majors in home runs again. And you have to feel like this is the perfect situation for him as Shohei Ohtani continues to be the story, and Mike Trout, who would rather live his life as anonymously as possible, gets to continue to do so and just play damn good baseball in the process. So the Shohei tracker continues to go. That was Off the Top here on ESPN Radio. Speaking of the process, we are Golic and Wingo here, presented by Progressive Insurance. We got a great list of guests today. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We got Sal Pal coming up, who was on site and in Philadelphia for the return of Meek Mill. Forget what happened in that basketball game last night. I'm sure he got that sit-down interview, and we'll have that ready to recount for us. Tim Hasselback, ESPN NFL analyst, going to join us at 8 Eastern. Roger Staubach, Pro Football Hall of Famer, going to join us in studio here at 8:30 Eastern. And Todd McShay, our ESPN NFL draft analyst, also going to be here in studio. I'm sure him and Mel happy to have the mocks done. If you miss any of those guests, you can listen to all 4 hours on demand on the ESPN app. But you know why they call the process a process, Dad?
Why is that?
Because it's a process.
It is a process.
Last night we had it finally come to fruition, and all of the parts that went into making last night were strange. I ask you because you had heard us joking about it on the show, going all the way back to the beginning of Golic and Wingo, this idea of free Meek Mills. But when you saw everything happen around the game last night, how confused were you?
I mean, there has to be, you mentioned it on the way in, so many talk show hosts today that are going to be furiously getting their information on Meek Mill and just what this guy is about and why there is such a big deal made out of him. But all you need to know is basically right now he gets freed from prison. Many thought he never should have been there in the first place. And helicopters to the game. And how important is this guy or the people around him? He sat courtside next to Sixers co-owner Michael Rubin and actor Kevin Hart. Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie, retired boxing great Bernard Hopkins sat near him. National champion Villanova Wildcats posed for pictures with Mill in the locker room. And before the game last night, Mill met privately with the Sixers in their locker room. Rubin had organized prison trips for the stars Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz, all to visit Meek Mill. We know Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, visited Meek Mill in prison. So, I mean, it's been a phenomenon right now that, you know, your millennial group here could explain a lot more than my group and Trey's group on just Meek Mill and the whole thing surrounding him. But all you had to see last night was him coming to the game, and the amount of power of stars that were around him was amazing.
By far the weirdest part, because you're right, I could sit here and explain to you what this means, why he's a symbol for the larger idea of looking at prison reform that Malcolm Jenkins and some of the guys in Philadelphia there with the Eagles have been looking at, or I can marvel at just how incredible it was that in 2018 I saw a picture of Robert Kraft and Meek Mill tweeted from the Patriots official Twitter account saying, "Justice for our friend, finally free." But you mentioned Joel Embiid, one of the Sixers stars. who went and visited Meek while he was in jail, last night after the game was asked about what the effect of Meek Mill being in-house was on this team.
It was great. When he was in jail, I went to visit him, and he wasn't feeling good. You could tell he was trying to hold on. So to be here and to kind of provide this opportunity for him because he's been following us, and for him to kind of come to this type of game, and that was a close-out game, and we got the win. I was just happy.
It blows my mind, and I'm not going to get into, the charges of why he's in jail and the breaking of probation and all that. I mean, if you Google that, find out yourself for. To me, the phenomenon is just the big-time people that wanted to be around him, that either visited him in prison or were there when he got out. And just the story behind it is incredible. That, as I mentioned, so many people I'm sure will be Googling today to try and find out all the backdrop to all of this.
Yeah, all the 20-something producers and board ops are going to earn their keep today as they furiously explain to sports talk radio hosts, this is why this matters so much. But the social media phenomenon that it happened to coincide at the perfect time with a team that sort of is of this same ilk, a team that is young, a team that has come together through a process that itself was newsworthy, and finally gets to see the culmination of it in a moment last night where once you heard that Meek Mill was going to be in the building, once you heard all of this coming together for the game, we all just looked up and said, it's just how much the Sixers are going to win by.
Well, that's exactly right, because listen, in our world of sports, the Sixers are the story and what they've done over the process, and that it actually worked for them. Depending on how well it worked, you can go by the number of years it took to get to where you are, to where they are now. But the social aspect of this thing with Meek Mill has been absolutely incredible. Obviously, we'll have our fun with that, but focus in on the sports side of it and the 76ers. But it blew my mind. Right out of prison, right onto a helicopter, and all these stars just meeting this guy, sitting with him and taking pictures of him. Just incredible.
It's incredible, but you mentioned it. We'll have plenty more on the basketball angle for this. A common misnomer about the process that we will put to rest based on what we've seen with this 76ers team. A bold proclamation from one of our colleagues about the future of this team and more.
Golic
and Wingo.
and Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, 103.3 FM in Dallas is where we are today. Glad you're with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr., not on television because we're in transit. We are in transit, literally like in a box, on our way on the bus to where we need to be, maybe kind of, sort of. Guys, good morning. How are we?
We're doing well. How are you doing? You've got a lot going on this week, man. This is Trey Wingo week.
And you've had an interesting start to your day from what we've heard.
Well, we had a few, the alarm didn't go off. There were a few malfunctions that we won't get into at the certain place that we're dwelling in, but it's all good. Glad we're here with you guys, and we're not on TV today, so it was okay for me to show up just in underwear, right?
The amazing thing is when we were talking about tweets, that was some of the first tweets we got. Do you guys have pants on? Yeah. It's always a great question, because when I used to be on the road for college games, I'd either do it at the college station or from my hotel room, right, of which I would just lay in bed how I spent the night.
A lot of free and easy moments.
Well, there you go.
And to Junior's credit, I heard him as I was walking in. I did promise, flip-flops and shorts today, but apparently I have to do some sort of meet and greet after the show. And I was like, yeah, they're probably not going to want to see that side of me, so I decided not to.
Is there anybody that wants to see that side of you?
Nobody does.
You know what? Not everyone deserves to see flip-flops. Right? That is a unique experience that we want to keep special.
That's a good point.
Respecting the one elder in this room and not the other one.
Hey, now. Well, that's never going to happen with you. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do.
You know that. I mean,
whatever.
It's like, let me put it this way. When he was growing up and you were, he was like 14 or 15, and you tried to teach him stuff in football, he'd say, Dad, shut up, right?
Well, no, actually, he was pretty good. He listened, and then he listened, smile, nod, and then go do whatever he wanted to do. It's exactly right.
Chappie was the same way. I mean, I could tell him, one time I told him, Dad, he said, Chappie, you should get a weight belt. He goes, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
Then 2 weeks, a month later, someone mentioned him, hey, Dad, can you give me a weight belt?
Yeah. See that? As long as somebody else mentions it.
Somebody does it. As long as not the dad does it, it always works. So I had to channel all my information that I want to tell him through Stink. And Stink would tell him stuff.
You know what? The roundabout way to do it is perfect like that. See, parents got to start gaming it like this. I heard Mike Freeman on Twitter was talking about the draft and said that one draft prospect told him that teams had been asking him about his girlfriend, and one team had even asked him if she was the one. And I said if moms were smart, they would start paying these teams for that kind of information, because if that gets brought up on Thanksgiving, he's never going to say anything. But when it's a team and it's a job interview, of course you're going to probably stammer your way through an answer that's a little more truthful, and that's where mom can strike.
That's exactly right.
That's why moms win.
Trey, one thing I'm a little, upset. You haven't brought up yet. We just talked about it right before the top of the hour, and my son at least gave me the credit to give myself the credit. I haven't heard you say all the time. You try to, whoa, Mike, I don't know, 0% chance.
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
We don't know if Belichick's coming back yet. That's the one thing we're sure of. Congratulations. You did a nice job there. You didn't take the bait. Although I must say, in somewhat of defense of my good friend Adam Schefter, as we are presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, that his information wasn't wrong. It just the outcome was to be expected, but he felt it was interesting that in talking with several interested parties, they're like, we're not sure yet.
No. I had never said anything about his information, and especially the information about there being headbutting. I completely agree with that.
We love you, Shefty.
But
DJ Shefty Chef.
Without question. But I just never thought there was going to be any question at all about those guys. And maybe we'll find out there was question. They were leaning one way or the other. But the bottom line is I was 100% correct, and I would like credit for it, Trey.
Wear the crown.
Thank you.
Wear the crown, my man. Wear it with pride.
Now I'm ready to continue the show.
All right, you ready?
Sure, why not?
We'll move on. Let's start with what's trending.
This is important.
That's Cliff, actually.
Wingo edition.
Cliff, I love you, baby. The Warriors defeated the Spurs Tuesday to advance to the Western Conference semis, where they will meet the Pelicans. The Warriors swept New Orleans in the 2015 first round, but Anthony Davis is not 2015 Anthony Davis.
No, he's not. And Warriors actually won 3 out of 4 of these in the regular season. Boogie Cousins played in 3 of them. The one he didn't play in, Steph also didn't play, and we don't know when Steph's coming back as well. But, boy, New Orleans looked great in this one. Golden State, I was still amazed when the Spurs won their one game in this. Some of the tweets I read about, oh, no, who's going to take over for goal? I mean, come on. I mean, they have stars, and they have great players on this team. It doesn't mean they're going to sweep every series, even though we thought that's what they were going to do last year. Durant leads away with 25, and Clay has 24. Draymond 17 and 19 rebounds as well. I don't worry about this team at all. I still think they're the favorite in the West, but I am really looking forward to the up-and-coming New Orleans Pelicans. We keep wondering, when is Anthony Davis going to be on another team? Is he going to end up on another team? And now look what this team that he's on is doing.
And what the future of this team looks like with Boogie Cousins being out and them having all this success. We remember Anthony Davis rattled off a couple of those monster offensive outings in the immediate wake of that injury. And we thought, okay, well, he's got more opportunities. Now we've seen it actually translate into good basketball for them. And Drew Holiday emerging in that backcourt is something that in this playoff run has probably been as surprising as anything for us as a national audience.
I am very curious, though, to see what happens when the Pelicans go up against this team, because the Pelicans are like, hey, we don't give a rip.
Yeah.
We got literally house money. We got nothing to lose. No one thought we would make the playoffs without Boogie Cousins. No one thought we would beat. I mean, literally, I think every ESPN NBA expert that picked, every single one of them picked the Blazers to win that series.
Yeah. I did. I know I did.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, they were hot coming into the playoffs. That was the team none of us were talking about enough.
And they just went out and stomped them out, to quote Michael Strahan after Super Bowl 42. So, I mean, congratulations to them. We'll see what happens. Again, they did win 3 of those 4 meetings, but that was obviously with Boogie Cousins there. But we'll see what happens in the playoffs as we continue. By the way, the fact that Cliff is functioning this morning is a miracle.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's an absolute miracle. For those that might not recall, Cookmaster Cliff, who runs the board for us on Golic and Wingo and is the music man extraordinaire, is a Philly dude through and through. He was our reporter for the Eagles Super Bowl parade, and it just continues.
It's fair to ask, though, real quick, Cliff, more happy the 76ers ended that series or Meek Mill is freed?
Free Meek.
There you go.
Yeah,
we've been on this since day one, Cliff. We did it.
It's a double down. It's a double down. The 76ers beat the Heat Tuesday in front of Meek Mill, who was freed from prison and rang the bell before the game to win their first playoff series since 2012.
Yeah, I mean, how happy you just come off the Super Bowl, I get it, but for the 76ers and how many times we're going to hear the process and how long it took and other teams saying, okay, this works, but how many years are you willing to invest in this? And certainly even if you're going to go down this road of the process, you have to get the players. And they do in Embiid and Ben Simmons. There's no doubt about that. And we'll see again, Markelle Fultz didn't play last night. So, he's been obviously barely played at all this year. Still, though, the youngest with a triple-double in NBA history. But what they've been able to do, J.J. Redick is the shooter for this team. God forbid you put him on the free throw line, the best free throw shooter in the game. But he's 33. So, we keep talking about the future of the 76ers. He's one of those guys. How much longer for him? Certainly he can do what he's doing, I would imagine, for a while longer. It's not like I'm saying he's going to retire, but we talk about Ben Simmons and Embiid and Markelle Fultz, and how young these guys are. It is balanced out with some veteran leadership.
Well, and that's the criticism we always lobbed at this team for so long when they were losing is, you've amassed all of these young, talented players, but there's no presence in that locker room. And the value of having veteran leadership in a group to sort of corral all these guys and help show them the way. So that's J.J. Redick's role in this as much as anything else. But a quick ode to the process. What did we learn throughout this, by the way, is that your process requires some tweaking. And this doesn't go as well as it does, I don't think, without Brian Colangelo stepping in and becoming a part of this and doing the job that he has done. And that bodes really well, by the way, for one NFL team in particular coming up in this draft who is following a similar plan.
Well, you can't just leave. That's a
tease
very good
right
tease.
there.
You want to
come on? Yeah, we'll stick around and find out when we talk about the draft later, guys.
Wow.
I got you.
I was going to leave, but now I want to know. That's very, very good.
I do too.
That's what I do for you guys.
Wow. You do something, that's for sure.
Good.
And we continue.
This is important.
So that Yankee slow start, apparently like the rest of us in the Northeast, they just hated the weather. Once it's gotten warm, the Yankees' bats have warmed up. They've won 4 in a row after another 8-3 win over the Twins last night. Didi hit his 8th home run, has 3 more RBI. He leads the major leagues with 27, and he also has 8 homers in his last 22 games.
8 home runs. We just were talked about earlier. Mike Trout got his 10th home run at the end of April, and and what else we chatted about with the Yankees, the 7th highest payroll now. How many of these guys? Now, Didi makes $5 million, but some of the other youngsters that we're talking about making $500-some thousand, and they have some room to grow, certainly with salary there. I don't doubt it sometime soon in the near future they'll be back into the top, of payroll, a place they're normally used to being, but it's still early. Well, we're talking 22 games in. They're 4 games behind the Red Sox, sitting at 17-5. Yankees 13-9. Toronto mixed in there as well. But I love watching these teams who are now again, there's no salary cap in baseball, but still, you're not used to seeing Yankee players that are playing so well a lot of times making in this case $5 million with Didi, but again, these other guys making $500,000 and multiple guys, not just one, but multiple guys that are making that kind of money and being so productive.
Yep, the under the radar salary Yankees, although I love this. We're talking about Didi Gregorius. Our own Dan Stanzik, super producer, getting in on the hot takery yesterday.
Yeah, I saw
Twitter that might not be founded. I saw Stanzik tweet this yesterday. Said, I know there's lore surrounding Jeter as a player, and he's earned all of it, but is Didi Gregorius the more talented and physically gifted shortstop?
Wow. That's a Stanzik hot take right there.
I don't think it's all that wrong. I mean, listen, we understand all of the parts that made Jeter great. The fact that he's this consummate Yankee, what he was able to do in that city, staying out of trouble, all of the above, the gift baskets. Everything sounds great when we wrap it up like that. But if we have an honest assessment of Jeter, the player, do we not arrive at this conclusion?
Well, it's way too early to arrive at that conclusion. Let's be clear about that.
Or maybe too late.
Jeter played for 4,683 years, and Didi struggled, for 2 or 3 years before finally clicking in last year. I mean, there were people a couple of years ago that were saying, I'm not sure if Didi's ever going to get it.
Right.
And then the athletic part, I may be with you, but everything else that goes with it,
we gotta wait.
We got a ways to go there.
We definitely have to wait.
But see, you guys are talking about production. This is sort of the LeBron Jordan argument, where you have a LeBron James who is more talented, but Michael Jordan who was more productive.
Oh yeah, you mean one of those stupid arguments?
Yeah, one of those realistic arguments
to make sure.
Right now.
Okay.
We're talking about the gifts.
Well, you are the gift for me, so I really can't say that. So thank you very much.
We blew right through the buzzer on that one.
I keep you with
us. Did really well.
Told you, you can try and play me off. It won't work.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm with you. Look, I don't want you to play off because that would mean I'd have to do more this week, and I really don't want to. Yeah. So anyway, glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio. We are at 103.3 FM Dallas right now, and we'll be out with tomorrow, next 2 days in the Golic and Wingo bus.
Yes, we will.
We're excited about that. We're getting ready. We are here getting ready for our coverage of the draft, our draft coverage will be here all week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with us, and also, of course, the draft itself. Starts Thursday night, 7 o'clock on ESPN and runs through the entire weekend. So it's all good. We're ready to go. We'll have Sal Pal coming up in about 15 minutes.
Right.
And I'm told we're actually going to do this again, really?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
All right, Cliff, let's go.
It's time to try Trey.
Yeah, that's about it. We're going to try Trey on the draft. Now, the one thing about Trey is he has a lot of great people at the desk with him, and Mel Kiper will be at the desk, Louis Riddick, and Kirk Herbstreit, where the whole College Game Day crew will be down here as well doing a show, and then Herbie will be on set with Trey on the main set. So we have all these guys with this great info, but Trey really digs down and gives great info off the field about a lot of players.
Well, I figure no one's listening to me break down tape. I mean, that would be a waste of everybody saying, hey, what do you think of the three-cone drill? He went fast? I mean, what do you, that's, I'm going to leave that to the experts. I'm just filling in the blanks around the other stuff when they run out of things to say.
Yeah, you might be able to say that Trey Wingo is clearly in the zone, and that's brought to you by AutoZone. AutoZone helps you more with their free services and helpful, friendly advice. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Wow. All right, so we're going to ask Trey some. We're going to try Trey with these questions about the draft coming up, but not about on the field things. So here we go, Trey.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Other than Vita Vea, the defensive tackle, the 350-pounder from Washington.
Whose full name is Tavita Tuilokiono Tuipoloto Mosese Afeatu Fayahavea.
And there we go.
There you have it.
Which 2 to 3 potential draftees' names have you practiced saying the most outside of his?
There's quite a few, actually, this year. There's Obo Okoronkwo, which I'm just going to go with Obo because the first name is still a struggle for me, but I'll have it by the time he's drafted. I promise, the kid out of Oklahoma. And then there's a kid out of, I'm trying to find him right now. Where is he? Out of Western Michigan, Chukwuma Okorafor. So those are a couple of them.
Wow. Now, do you know you're pronouncing them correctly, or are you just saying them with conviction?
No. Well,
it's just one of those things, where you just act like you know exactly what's going on.
Our
so you
great
get that
draft researcher, Jim Carr, make sure he puts pronunciations in there. Now, I'm most looking forward to, and you guys will love this because it's a Notre Dame player, going through the entire family history of Equanimous St. Brown, because he's we just got to tell a little bit of his story, okay? His father is a bodybuilder named John Brown, who was a two-time Mr. World, two-time Mr. Universe, three-time Mr. World. He met his wife at a bodybuilding show in the 80s in Germany, and this is his quote now. His quote. He picked her because he wanted to have selective breeding. So they picked 2 people that they thought were going to give. Whose quote
is that?
That's the father.
The father, okay.
Said, we want to make sure we had good kids. So he named all 3 of his sons this very strict regimen of a name, followed by an Egyptian name, followed by Saint, and then Brown, and then another Egyptian name plus a letter. And it's a fascinating thing because all 3 of these kids, and they're all 3 D1 athletes, all 3 of them took the ACT and the SAT in 3 languages, French, English, and German.
Seriously?
Because she's from Germany, and she only speaks to them or texts to them in German. And one year when they were living in L.A., one semester when they were all in high school, they were taking French, and she didn't think they were learning proper French, so she pulled them out of school for a semester, moved them to Paris, and they had to speak French like the Parisians for an entire semester of school so they would understand how to actually speak French.
Oh, you're not getting that anywhere else.
That's good stuff, man.
That's info.
Equanimous St. Brown.
Not gonna lie, watched that kid at Notre Dame for 3 years now and had no idea about any of that. That is 100% a house that has no colorful cereal allowed in the pantry.
Yeah.
That's very true.
All right, what do you got, Mike?
All right, Trey, which potential draftee can play 9 instruments?
Oh, that would be defensive end Chad Thomas out of Miami. He's actually he can play 9. He's working on a 10th right now.
Why not?
Because he has 10 fingers, so you might as well be able to tap each one of them, right? He also is a budding music career. He's had some music sort of already published and put out there in Miami, but he has a great interest in football, but he also has a great interest in music. He's always been around it. And he's really looking forward to doing both at the same time. Obviously, football season will take over, but when he has time in the offseason, much in the same way Le'Veon Bell drops some serious bars, he wants to be the musical side, whereas Le'Veon is more the vocal side.
Wow. All right. This is Try Trey, where you're getting way more than height, weight, and 40 time, which is what you're going to get during the draft. Trey is going to do deep dives, I should say, into some of these draft prospects. All right. Here we go.
Yeah.
Which potential draftee routinely got his butt kicked in their backyard dojo by his big sisters?
Oh, that would be Philip Lindsay, the running back out of Colorado. Philip, I think, retired with the most yards from scrimmage in Colorado history. He didn't get invited to the combine, which kind of ticked him off. But he's a little guy. He's like 5'9", 180, 190 pounds. But he's a Darren Sproles type. But his dad set up a Taekwondo dojo in their backyard, and he would get big and bad with his buddies and go in there and kick some butt. And when he thought he was ruling, his dad would send in his older sisters, and they would just take him down and make him know, you're still not the best guy in the family.
Wow. Love
that. Any of you guys were looking for the over-under on the first mention of backyard dojo on ESPN Radio, 718.
We got a couple of those this year.
It is truly incredible. By the way, Cliff, while we're here, can you do that thing I like real quick? I know Dad and Trey will.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we have a pick and I have to go.
Yeah.
A pick is in, I gotta go.
Trey just lost his mind.
Trey just heard the training camp horns. Anytime I hear an air horn, I automatically assume I'm late for some training camp meeting. Trey hears those and assumes that he is needed on set right now. But
I feel you, dog.
Trey continuing to give us all sorts of draft nuggets here. Let's go with this one, Trey, as we try you. Which first-round quarterback had to send over 1,000 emails just to get an offer from an FBS school?
Oh, that's really interesting. That might be the first guy off the board. That was Josh Allen. Josh Allen had like 0 FBS offers coming out of high school in Firebaugh, California, a city that's a population of about 7,500 and is made up about 90% of migrant farm workers. So he went to junior college and sent out 1,000 emails to every head coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback's coach that he could find, and got 2 responses. And one of them was Wyoming. So he went there, and this is really fascinating. He may have gone from being a guy who had to beg to get a chance to play to being the first guy taken in the 2018 draft.
That's really cool. And by the way, Josh Allen will join us on set tomorrow, 9:30, over by the Golic and Wingo bus. So that's going to be fantastic.
Love that.
And we're going to take pictures of that. We're going to put it on our Instagram.
At Golic Wingo. Come check it out. See that arm strength in person.
Yeah.
Wait, this is actually happening?
Looks
it's already happening.
We are actually going to let that happen.
Yes, we are.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, there you go. We're going to do more.
We'll do more of those a little bit later?
Yeah, we'll do more a little later. Yeah.
We'll do more later.
We definitely have plenty. I love this. So I love so much stuff I didn't know. It is fun. It's very cool.
You read, look, the thing is, we all look at these draftees, and especially fans, they look at them as products, not people.
Right.
You look at them, okay, this is a thing that I'm going to plug into my thing here, and this thing is going to perform for me.
Whoa.
It's not like you're buying a charger at an Apple store. You're buying an actual person that has some interesting things, and a lot of them have overcome a lot of struggles along the way, and that's what I like telling
I
about.
know what you just said, but I feel like a lot of that should have been beeped.
Beep.
But go ahead.
Well, they might need a cigarette. Coming up, we'll go live to Philly, where Sal Pal is probably in a Wawa right now, reading a newspaper, or he'll be holding one up for a live shot on SportsCenter with a picture of Meek Mill.
Golic
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
and Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Every deck is made for standing on, but there's only one that's always had a way of standing out. So if you're looking to bring more style, comfort, and creativity to your life outdoors, call on the brand that's known for making the most in outdoor living. From decking, railing, and lighting to furniture, fencing, and framing, at Trex, we're engineering what's next in outdoor living. To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, call 1-800-289-TREX or visit Trex.com. That's TREX.com.
You know who else is always there for Philadelphia? Our guy, Sal Pal.
Yes, he is.
Sal Pal joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Sal Pal is with us. He'll be embedded with the Jets for the draft, and we'll get to that in a minute, because if you don't know your draft history, Sal will always have to be embedded with the Jets after the infamous Bill Parcells interview during one discussion, which was great. We'll get to that in a minute. But, Sal, you were the man on the spot at Philly last night. First of all, did you get to speak to Meek?
Very briefly. He was sitting next to Kevin Hart, and at the end of the game, we tried to do a little interview with him, and he was all for it. He wanted to get on SportsCenter. He saw the ESPN mic flag. Full disclosure, he had no idea who I was, obviously. But
no chance. Phil, Sal, I don't believe that. I believe he said, hey, there's that Sal Pal guy that works for that network whose name I can't remember. That's the way it's going down in my brain, just so you know.
No, he saw the mic flag, and his eyes lit up, but a couple of his handlers pulled him away from us. And that's all cool. But, it was an electric night last night. And this team is, without a doubt, a for-real basketball team. And I know it's going to sound, Dr. Trey, like a little bit of a homer thing, but it reminds me a lot. It reminds me a lot of the Eagles team because they have some veterans who know how to win. They have some young talent that don't really know what they're up against and just play, like their hair's on fire. They make some mistakes. They had 27 turnovers in the previous game. They got a young coach who's not, terribly accomplished. They got a hungry fan base that is absolutely wild for them. It really reminds me a lot of the Eagles' run last year.
Sal, when you're watching this team, and it's a team, really a second half team, going into this game, they had outscored the Heat by 42 in the fourth quarter, overall in the series by 78 points in the second half. How different does this team look to you in person when they come out of the locker room after halftime?
Yeah, Michael, that's a really great point, and I think it's absolutely true. It is a second half team, and I think it's for two reasons. One, they're youthful. Two, they're in great shape. Brett Brown has this team running and gunning in practice, and it's all about pace for them. Tempo, tempo, tempo. He said before the game, after the 27 turnovers in the last game, damn the turnovers, full speed ahead. We're just going to go with tempo, and we're going to play our game and shoot the three. I guess there's really a third reason, and that is at the beginning of games, especially in the postseason, it's tough to find your shot rhythm. But if you keep shooting like they're doing, they find that rhythm in the third quarter. And when you see this team in the third quarter, they start to really light up the threes with Marco Bellinelli, with Dario Saric. Ilyasova gets into the act. But the guy who leads the charge without a doubt is the veteran J.J. Redick. And I pay a lot of attention to warm-ups like I do at NFL games. And I watched that guy warm up his three. And at the beginning, he can't hit the ocean. He fell out of a boat. But by the 15th or 16th shot, he's not missing anything.
Talking to Sal Palantonio on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line here, and Sal, I'm with you. If J.J. Redick really gets that stroke going too, this team gets exponentially more dangerous. But now for the ceiling, Stephen A. Smith said he has the Sixers going all the way to the NBA Finals this season. What does the ceiling look like as you've seen them from your vantage point?
Well, Stephen A. and I were colleagues at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Now we're colleagues at ESPN. We were together last night. I'm not ready to make that prediction yet. I do respect his opinion, obviously, no question about it. He's more of an analyst, and I'm more of a reporter. So I got to cover this next round, and I don't want to go on the record saying one thing or the other. But I'll just say this: they got youth, and they got desire, and they've got a coach that's not afraid to change, make adaptations on the run. And that also reminds me a lot of Peterson from last year with the Eagles. This guy, Brett Brown, can really coach. And he's not afraid to make adjustments. And when you watch him on the sideline, the way he communicates with these young and old players, he's got a really interesting mix now. He's got these two European stars. He's got a veteran in Bellinelli and another one in Redick. He's got a hungry fighter like T.J. McConnell. And then the two superstars, Simmons and Embiid, these young two superstars. The way he adapts his communication management style to the players, depending on who they are, is really something to watch in real time on the sideline. I'm impressed.
Well, you should be, because it's been an impressive run for the Sixers, as it has for everything in Philadelphia. Sal Palantonio with us. Okay, Sal, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the NFL draft. Let's go there, baby. And again, for those that don't know, thank you very much. Wait, the pick is in? Okay. For those that don't know, aren't draft historians, of course Sal is embedded with the Jets this year because there was an epic confrontation, or a discussion, rather, with Bill Parcells.
No question about it.
Well, but it started as a conversation. This was after what? Keyshawn Johnson wrote the book, Just Give Me the Damn Ball, right?
Yeah.
And you were asking Bill about that, and he told you, I don't want to talk about it. So Sal did the, air quotes, big J journalism thing, where he tried to ask the question without actually asking the question, and he went like 3 times at it, and finally Bill said, "That's it. I'm done." It was one of the greatest moments in draft history. That's why we love you, Sal. So are we going to have another one of those moments this week with the Jets if Broadway Baker falls to them at 3?
Oh, my gosh. I have, first of all, the great Bill Parcells and I have since made up after that incident.
Of course.
I learned a lot from Bill that day. Let's put it that way. We just taped our NFL matchup show draft specials, and I did a lot of research, some film study, a lot of talking to coaches, obviously, and GMs and scouts, and looking at scouting reports. And I actually agree with Louis Riddick. I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. I think Baker Mayfield is the number 1 quarterback in this draft, by far. I mean, to me, the 2 most important traits that you cannot do without at the NFL level is you have to be accurate with the football, and you have to make quick decisions, good decisions. When it counts the most, 3rd and 5, 4th quarter, in the red zone. And Baker Mayfield checks all those boxes in a big way.
So this is, in your mind, yes, the Jets pick at 3 if he's available no matter what?
Well, no, I don't know about that. I'm going to find out a little bit later. I'm going to go up to Florham Park and maybe have a chance to talk to Todd Bowles and Mike McCagnon. But the Jets need a quarterback. They didn't move up to number 3 to pick a safety again. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So
they got 2 last year.
They did. So, I mean, if Sam Darnold goes number 1 and Saquon Barkley goes number 2 to the Giants, and Baker Mayfield is sitting there at number 3, I mean, you'll have a riot in all the 5 boroughs if they don't pick Baker Mayfield.
Sal Palantonio with us as we get set to cover the draft. Sal, what else are you hearing about what the Jets may want to do? Let's say for some crazy reason Baker Mayfield isn't there, because Adam Schefter is reporting that the Browns are telling people that, hey, he's still in the conversation for being the 1st overall pick. Of course, we're in the lying season, as you well know, in the NFL.
Yeah.
So let's just say for some crazy notion that either Baker goes number 1 or someone trades up with the Giants, who have sort of hung out that shingle, Sal, and saying, hey, if you're really interested, we're open for business. What then for the Jets?
Well, that's the big question. Is if Baker Mayfield goes
That's what I do, Sal.
And I think then it's an interesting situation. If Darnold and Baker Mayfield are both gone, who do the Jets take at 3? I think that's the real problematic situation for the Jets. To me, for my board, in my study, I got Baker Mayfield number 1, Josh Rosen number 2, and then Lamar Jackson is my number 3 quarterback.
Wow.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's proven. Yes. And I had Deshaun Watson very, very high last year. I think it's proven over and over again that if you have a quarterback who is a threat to run, and you have to dedicate a hat on defense to that guy, and that quarterback is also a very accurate passer, so he can throw from the pocket. That opens. We saw that with Carson Wentz. When Carson Wentz was really going blazes, it was because of his threat to run, and you had to dedicate a hat to him that opened everything up. And then when Foles started with the RPOs, the run-pass options, again, if you had to dedicate a hat to that idea that you don't know what he's going to do with the football, then that opens up the passing game. And I think that this notion that you have to have it, and to me, Baker Mayfield, although he's not a runner, he's a great pocket passer. He can cut off a 40, 50-yard run that we've seen him in college. He's got speed. And I think, to me, the accuracy and the threat to run of some of these guys, like Rosen's a pocket passer, but he's got great accuracy.
Yeah, he does.
He does, but I think Lamar Jackson's being very, very underrated in this draft.
Oh, I don't disagree with you there, Sal, and I think it's going to be really curious to see in this mad dash for quarterbacks, if they all go at the top, how quickly someone trades up for Lamar Jackson after saying, well, we're not sure about him as a quarterback through this entire draft process. Sal, we got to run, brother. We appreciate you as always, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
We are absolutely thrilled and delighted to have another 10th rounder in the studio today. A little better than it turned out for Mike Golic for your career, although your career was fine. It was wonderful. Pro Football Hall of Famer Roger Staubach joins us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. He joins us on behalf of USAA, the official military appreciation sponsor of the NFL. I've had the pleasure of working with Roger several times at Super Bowls over the year with USAA, but for many people that don't know, I grew up a huge Cowboy fan, and Roger was my hero growing up, so it's always delighted, sir, to be in your presence again. Thanks for being here. What does it mean to have the draft coming to Dallas now?
Well, it's exciting. I didn't realize until last year how exciting the draft can be when I was watching it in Philadelphia because I was watching my buddy Drew Pearson.
Absolutely.
And so it's I didn't realize there's a lot going on, and it's kind of a exciting event that I wouldn't have looked at it that way years ago, but it seems like it's a big event today.
A little different than 1964, the year you got drafted again. You were a 10th rounder in the NFL draft. That same year, the AFL draft, you were the 16th round, but the 10th round, I was also the 10th round. We were just talking. I said we were both drafted in the 10th round, and then our careers took a decided turn.
Well, that isn't true, Mike. You had a great at Notre Dame and in the NFL.
And speaking of Notre Dame, you beat them in 1963, and then this is where my son Mike can come into this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame didn't lose to them again until the year before you got
2007.
there. And then how many times did you lose to them, Mike?
That'd be twice. That'd be twice. So you guys had a hell of a run when I was there.
Notre Dame was part of Navy history. We play, we still play every year, and even the conference we're in now, we still have to have Army, Air Force, and Notre Dame. So it's been a great run. We had that 43 years in a row though that was kind of hard to take, but we've won a few in the last few years.
Yeah, no, with Coach Niumatalolo now and the job that he's done with that program, always a great rivalry, a lot of respect on both sides. But I am interested, you and my dad, both 10th rounders, the draft, like you said, obviously a lot different. What was the draft like for you back then? What are your memories of waiting around to try and find out where you were going to go?
I wasn't even thinking about waiting around. I was a junior at Navy, a second classman, and because I spent a year in the in junior college, so I was eligible for the draft after my junior year. So it was kind of a non-event. It was in the Washington Post, had a little article in the paper on the day after the draft that I was drafted in the 6th and the, or the 10th and the 15th round or something by Dallas and Kansas City. And so I still had a year to go at the Naval Academy and 4 years in the service. So it just wasn't a big deal. But it turned out to be an important deal because I agreed to play, if I ever played again after I graduated, I agreed to play with the Dallas Cowboys.
That worked out
Good decision.
Well. Yeah, that worked out for you and also worked out well for the Cowboys as well. It just shows you, to your point, Roger, as Hall of Famer, two-time Super Bowl champion Roger Staubach is with us, Heisman Trophy winner as well, here in studio at 103.3 Dallas, just how much things have changed. The Cowboys took a chance on you in the 10th round when you had a year of eligibility left, plus all that time in the military service. You finally got to the Cowboys in the late 60s when they were on the cusp of being a really, really good team, and you had to battle Craig Morton for the starting job. In fact, the year the Cowboys won their first Super Bowl in Super Bowl VI, not only did they alternate quarterbacks during the game. They'd alternate them during the series. Tom Landry would send out Craig Morton for one series and Roger Staubach for another series. And finally, everybody came to the conclusion that, look, this isn't working. We need to stick with one guy. But it was really an unusual situation that was playing out back then.
Well, that was very unusual. That was the 71 season, and Craig and I both had really good preseason. So Coach Landry announced we're going to have two quarterbacks, and so we alternated games at the beginning, but all of a sudden he decided against the Chicago Bears. We were 4-2 at the time. We're playing the Bears, and he said we're going to alternate quarterbacks. And the Coach Landry was a fantastic coach. He's a great human being. He was an engineer, goals outstanding, reasonable, believable, achievable, and so it was, hey, you just, here's the game plan and here's how you react. Well, a quarterback is in a position of a leadership and has got to make things happen, and so that was I think something that the team was really got divided. I mean, half the team wanted Craig and half the team wanted me, but we did play that one game against the Chicago Bears. We alternated plays, and we lost a close game, though. We lost a close game, and we were 4-3 and middle of the season.
Can you imagine that today? I mean, trotting a different series. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, actually, when Randall Cunningham got to Philadelphia, sometimes he would go in just on third down,
right?
During a series, and Buddy Ryan would say, "Listen, if your first read or two isn't there, run," because he was such a great athlete. So there was a little bit of that. Well, talking about that, we got a bunch of questions from Twitter, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Carol asked, "What was the most important thing you learned from Tom Landry?"
Well, the most important thing was really preparation. He was fanatical on preparation, being ready to play, understanding the game plan, understanding the other team and what we've seen on film. So it was really preparation, and he taught me a lot about preparation. And he was a little upset with me because I ran a lot. I kind of went against the grain. You drop back, you get keys, you got to get rid of the ball, and so he put up with my running. But he really taught me a lot about preparation and being prepared. That's the reason we won for 20 years, because we were well prepared for a game, but we lost emotionally, or a good team beat us, but we were very prepared when we played football.
Talking to Roger Staubach here in studio, and I have to ask now, as we spin it forward, we've been preparing for the draft, and I don't know how much you've seen of the guys getting ready to come out right now, but a big quarterback draft this year at the top. Are there any of the guys, the Baker Mayfields, the Josh Rosens, the Sam Darnolds, that remind you of yourself, or that you see traits that make a winning quarterback?
Well, it's quite a while ago, but I ran a lot, and that was a question mark. Was my arm strong enough? And I played in the college All-Star game, and that's when I think both teams that had drafted me wanted me to figure out if I wanted to ever play again, if I would play for them. And so it was mainly because they knew I did have I don't want to talk about. I did have a good arm. I was switched.
Listen, you're in the Hall of Fame. You can talk about yourself.
Well, I was actually switched to quarterback my senior year because our coach watched me play in baseball, and he said that guys listen to you, and you got a good arm. I watch you play baseball. So, but I ran and moved around a lot, and Baker Mayfield is, he's like Russell Wilson and some of these quarterbacks that have the real good quickness, and they can get the first down. And now you can slide and get the first down, so you don't have to get beat up and try to run over anybody. But it does come in handy to buy time and be able to run now and then. But then you got a Brady that can move around a pocket, and but I was more of I definitely ran for third downs a lot.
Can that be taught, I guess, because you say you can slide or get out of bounds? Russell Wilson does it so well of getting out of bounds or sliding. But then a guy like RG3, who was an incredible athlete, a sprinter, and a heck of a quarterback, he struggled to actually slide and get down or get out, and he took way too many hits. Is that something, whether it's back decades ago or now, that can be learned by a quarterback?
It sure can, especially when you get knocked out running the ball. Again, as a quarterback, I wasn't trying to run over anybody, but I just knew a defense, no matter what they said, we hope he runs and we'll get him, and they hated that because especially when you ran out of the pocket and you got the first down. And so I knew that it was, it was something that would help the team. And so when they allowed you to run and slide, that was great because that way I could get the first down and then slide. And it made a big difference. I did have some concussions running, and later on when they put the slide rule in the NFL, that really, I really enjoyed that actually.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, no,
I didn't as a defender.
Especially, I didn't slide before I got the first down. It was after the first.
See, perspective changes
yes,
everything.
Is.
That's exactly what it is. Legendary Cowboy quarterback, Hall of Famer Roger Staubach with us. As we mentioned, he's here on behalf of USAA. I've had the pleasure of working with Roger several times at Super Bowls at USAA events. What are you and USAA doing in terms of the draft this weekend, Roger?
Well, USA is the official military appreciation sponsor of the NFL, and I've been involved with the USA at the Army-Navy game, the Super Bowl, and they really are there'll be a lot of veterans here at the draft, and I'm going to get a chance to speak to them tomorrow. And so the USA at the now they're part of the draft. It kind of kicks off the year, and they've been instrumental in the salute to service as far as the veterans and coaches that have done a lot for the military, brought veterans to camps. And it's just been one thing after the other the USA has done for our veterans, and they're a big part of the of football and the NFL.
They certainly are. And again, I've done a lot of work with USA over the last 4 or 5 years at the Super Bowl. They do a great job. They're tremendous. As were you. Roger, always a pleasure to see you again. Great to be here on your home turf, and we look forward to what you're doing with USA and also what we'll see from the draft this weekend in Dallas. Thanks for stopping by and getting up early this morning.
I was going to pick a winning team, but this is the draft.
Everybody wins.
I've never been on the radio at the draft.
That's the beauty of the draft.
That's
Everybody wins.
Everybody
you can only
wins.
lose 3 years from now.
Everybody
That's
gets
what makes it great.
And every pick every team makes is the pick they wanted all along.
100% correct. This was the guy we wanted from day one. Roger Staubach with us in studio. Thanks so much, Roger.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo.
Other than Vita Villa,
whose full name is Tavita Tui Lokiono Tui Poloto Mosese Afeatu Fayahavea.
And there we go.
There you have it.
Wow. Just one of the many impressive things Trey Wingo will be doing during the
that's it. That's really it.
Draft broadcast.
That's
Golic
really
and Wingo reminding you that we'll be live this Thursday and Friday from Arlington, Texas for the NFL Draft. Brought to you by DXL, the best XL fit, hundreds of brands. DXL, the destination for XL style.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you. We're on ESPN Radio today, 103.3 FM in Dallas, our place to be. We just had Roger Staubach in the studio. That was great, but we have big news in basketball, and the least surprising news about this is it came after the seminal moment for the NCAA, which was the Final Four championship won by Villanova. But, of course, there was the FBI probe that came out and showed sweeping allegations of corruption and fraud and payment in the high ranks of college basketball. So an independent commission is directing the NCAA now to make changes to college basketball. A 60-page report released today by the Commission on College Basketball recommends that the NCAA should have the ability to impose lifetime bans on coaches who commit major violations. The commission also says the NBA should end the so-called one-and-done rule, which requires all NBA players to be at least 19 years old and 1 year removed from high school. High school players should once again be allowed to go straight to the NBA, like LeBron James, according to the commission. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who led the commission, said today the sport of college basketball is, quote, worth saving, end quote, but also acknowledged that the state of the game is not very strong. The commission was formed last year in response to that FBI investigation. There's a lot of meat on this bone to chew.
Yeah, and there definitely is. You know, I think the main things we talk about are the one and dones. You talk about enforcements on coaches and on schools. Level 1 violations would be punishable by up to 5-year postseason ban, forfeiture of all postseason revenue for the time on the ban. That's where it would really hit a school because
Correct.
of the money that it could cost them. The one and done, remember again, that's an NBA rule. So the commission, what they did is they called for the NBA and its Players Association to change the rule, change the one and done rule, and that's all they can do because they don't have control over that. And the other, and this is a big one, you know, the colleges spend so much time keeping agents away from players. The commission has basically said the commission proposed the NCAA create a program for certifying agents and make them accessible to players from high school through their college years. So actually has certified agents with these players all through high school and through college. That is a major change there.
It's understanding the times because we demand transparency across the board regardless of the setting. And so the NCAA is saying our problems have been when things are forced to be done in the dark that we know are going on anyway. That's the common refrain we've heard through all this, right? Is these things are obvious to the people that have supposedly been paying attention, that these things are obvious from the outside. The NCAA is saying, all right, we're going to lay it all on the table here right now because we know this is the way the system's operated. Easier to show it than to change it.
Well, look, they've known this is the way the system is operated forever. Let's be clear about that. So the question then becomes, they've created this commission who had this report based on the FBI report that was leaked out. What actually gets done? What actually changes?
I think a fair amount could get done only because you've already started these discussions.
Because of the FBI report.
Well, because of the FBI report.
Something had to start it.
But you've got a willing group on the other side. If you're looking for the one and done, you've got a willing group in the NBA. Adam Silver has been as willing to listen to public dialogue and fan reaction as any commissioner in any sport. Yeah. So you put it in his lap. They've already had these discussions with him and Michelle Roberts going back to November. They had these conversations.
Michelle Roberts, head of the NFL Players Union.
Yes, head of the NBA Players Union. So you've got that. The more impact, because that one to me seems like it'll get done. The NBA likes pleasing its fans.
Completely agree. I think one and done is going to be gone. I think the toughest thing of all this is figuring out how to have agents involved with high school and college players, access on campus, where they can be and how that all works. As far as your punishment, you can apply whatever punishment you want. That's under full NCAA control of what they want to do. If you want to come down hard on a coach or a school, you can do that. So that can be implemented. I think one and done definitely will. I think the agent thing is going to be an interesting twist on how they do that.
And the other thing is going to be the ramifications of what happens from the FBI report. Listen, as much as this is sort of because of that, the real hammer will be dropped by what comes out in that FBI report. We've just seen drips and drabs, but when that thing goes forward, that more than anything else will be the nuclear winter.
And is that when you start with those lifetime bans? Because we always talk about how do you really hit who's hurting this the most? A lifetime ban of coaches where that sport, they're the stars, that would be a major, major move.
Because they can coach forever and players only have a short window to get it done.
Golic
makes me want to vomit and then punch you square in the face.
and Wingo.
Oh, he's saucy today.
ESPN NFL draft expert Todd McShay is going to join us from our studio in Bristol, giving you the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Todd, I have to imagine you are good and happy to have the mock drafts in the past and get ready to be a night away from doing the real thing.
First off, is Wingo taking another day off, man?
No. Yeah. He was actually here for 2 hours. He'll be here for 2 hours tomorrow and then 1 hour Friday. I mean, man, soft. It's so soft.
Unbelievable.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah.
All
Just
right,
when you got to dig in a little more, he becomes the soft one.
Yeah, we're learning some things here. Mock draft, I can't wait, man. I cannot wait to be done with it tonight. This is the only one where I actually will start. I start talking to people in the league. I mean, when I'm talking to guys in the league before this, it's all about just players and what you saw, and am I seeing something different? And the narrative changes basically this past weekend all throughout. I was on the phone till it was around 11 o'clock last night with the GM and kind of like gossiping, just what do you think they're going to do? Well, if he goes there, what's going to happen? Are you hearing anything there? And just kind of trading information with one another and going back and forth. So I think ultimately I'm probably better off just pairing players I think that belong and going that way. But I wind up spinning it around 40 times in my head and screwing it up by tomorrow morning.
That's what you do. Yes, it's because you love to do it. So you just mentioned it right there. The narrative changes since the weekend. What have been the biggest narrative changes you've seen from when you started this process, a while ago to now?
Well, I think in the last week or so, teams, the GM I talked to yesterday, they were just basically finished up their board. And it was mostly going back through the medicals and the character and making sure they had all the information and that they hadn't missed anything, and then kind of moving guys around accordingly and making sure everything was set. And so just a couple of things, I think we're going to have runs on certain positions. And when do they start? That's going to be the question. I think with pass catchers, we could go 16, 20 picks without a wide receiver or tight end taken. But then if Ridley goes or if DJ Moore goes, is there another team between 20 and 32 that's saying, if we don't get this guy, we think there's a big drop off in receiver, or if we want to get one of these tight ends, whether it's Dallas Goedert or Hayden Hurst. I think the offensive linemen are going to be interesting. Mike McGlinchey, you guys well know from Notre Dame, is going to probably come off the board a little bit earlier. And I will be surprised if the first two offensive linemen aren't the Notre Dame guys. I think Quentin Nelson is in the top 10, and I think somewhere in that 10 to 18, 10 to 20 range is going to be McGlinchey. But then after that, everyone's kind of waiting and hoping the other linemen fall. And I know this, well, for you guys, you'll enjoy it, offensive line talk. But James Daniels, I got a good audience. James Love Daniels him. From Iowa. Ragnoff from Arkansas, the center, is getting a lot more buzz as we get closer to the draft. Colton Miller from UCLA, a measurables guy who's needs work, but still I think he goes late in the first round. Billy Price from Ohio State is kind of right on the fringe. Connor Williams from Texas has been falling a little bit. His interviews, I guess, have not gone all that well. There's some other issues. Isaiah Wynn, some durability issues. He's starting to fall a little bit. Austin Corbett from Nevada is starting to move up. So there's all these guys in this, I want to say 25 to 50 range, and I think teams are going to kind of move around accordingly, whether it's move back and try to get an additional pick if a team's trying to move up, or if the run starts, don't be surprised to see, especially early Friday night, some teams moving up, because when these about 8 or 9 linemen go, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, for a couple of rounds.
Wow, talking to Todd McShay, ESPN NFL draft expert. We are over here quivering right now with delight after that run of offensive line talk. But we understand. As I try and compose myself, I understand
we lost some listeners, but that's all right.
Come on, this is the meat of the draft.
Exactly. For all of the true draft degenerates, you just got your hit, but now we'll pay the bills. Adam Schefter reporting that the Browns are interested in Baker Mayfield at number 1. How strongly do you think that's actually a possibility at this point?
I think there's an individual or multiple individuals in the building that are pushing or in his camp, in Mayfield's camp. And you know how it goes. I mean, you've got all sorts of voices and people who have experience and are in position to have a voice in that building. There's only one voice that ultimately matters in the end, and that's John Dorsey, the GM. But he didn't hire Scott McLuhan as a special personnel advisor. He doesn't have, they've got college director and personnel directors and college scouts, and then you've got a new quarterback coach in Ken Zampese, a new coordinator in Todd Haley, you've got a head coach, Hugh Jackson. They all have opinions. And so I'm kind of putting pieces of the puzzle together that I believe that what happened is, one of those voices has said, well, Baker Mayfield, to somebody, that Baker Mayfield has been in the discussion. Now, I have to assume by this point John Dorsey knows who he's taking. Mm-hmm. But I'm also told that there's a really good chance he doesn't tell anyone in the organization till tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. So it could be, it could be 5 o'clock tomorrow before Adam Schefter reports that he's hearing strongly that it's Josh Allen or Sam Darnold, or maybe it is Baker Mayfield. But I still think it comes down to Allen and Sam Darnold at the end of the day. And Allen seems to be more of what John Dorsey has gone for in the past. Sam Darnold, to me, is the best quarterback in the class, so that's where I'm stuck.
And we had Bruce Arians on yesterday, former coach of the Cardinals, and he had said at that point, yes, all 32 teams, and his belief was they all know who their pick is going to be, that first pick, as long as that person is available. We're talking to Todd McShay, our NFL draft expert. For those that may not know, former Richmond Spider quarterback. You can also check out the First Draft podcast with Mel Kiper and McShay, new episodes weekly on the ESPN app and Apple Podcast. Todd, every year it happens.
Wow.
Every year.
Wow.
Every year.
Todd, don't just let that, we can't let that slide.
First and foremost, every year something like that happens from me. And this also happens. You get the, oh no, that guy that's at the draft, expected to go higher than he actually goes, and he starts falling and falling and falling. Who are the possibilities? I know you mentioned some of the old linemen already. A couple of possibilities who that might happen to.
Darius Geis could be in for a long 2 days compared to what the expectation was. The LSU running back, really talented back. He's 5'10 and a half, 225 pounds, runs in the 4.4s, really productive at LSU when he was healthy. The interview process has not gone well. Reports of missed interviews, different issues. I think teams are starting to – there's a lot of red flags out there with Geis, is what I've gotten from multiple teams. There are some injuries that I think if you start to see players fall a little bit, I think it will have to do with injuries. The teams, and I'm only reporting what multiple teams have told me, so there's no rumor or speculation here. This is from multiple teams with their doctors and concern. It doesn't mean they're going to fall by rounds, but I think, when you have a tiebreaker and you look and say, well, we're a little bit concerned about this guy with the long-term durability, or he's a little bit more likely to suffer an injury. I think those are the guys that you start to see where we expect maybe go in the 20s, wind up going in the 40s or the 30s, especially in a year where there's the talent difference between pick 25 and 50. There's just not much. So I think Sony Michel, there's some concern with some teams. Some other teams don't have issues. Leighton Vander Esch, the linebacker from Boise State. Again, some teams, he's clear. Some teams, there's some concern there. Isaiah Wynn, the guard, the college tackle, who's going to move inside the guard. There's some shoulder issues that I think are going to be, that could affect him a little bit as well. So there's Rasheem Green is another for the defensive end from USC. So generally speaking, at this point, if a guy is falling, it has everything to do with character or durability. And I think if a guy falls from late first round to the middle of the second, it's probably going to be one of those two reasons.
And also, Mike, it may not be a bad thing at times if you fall from the end of the first to the second, because you go from that 5-year deal with the option to team if you're in the first round to the second round where it's a 4-year deal and you can hit free agency earlier than that.
Yep, always interesting value propositions at play for the end of the first round with teams and for those players. Talking to NFL draft expert Todd McShay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Todd. I'm sorry, Todd.
I just wanted to hear you apologize.
I get enough of my first name.
Yeah.
that is true. But we look at, you mentioned before, now getting into some of the information coming out of teams, but for the most part, the mock drafts, you're trying to take educated guesses. You're looking at need and pairings. And I remember a while back, you put out your A+ mock draft where if every team made this pick, it would be your best version of their draft. Is there one pick in particular, one team and one player that if you think these two get married up, especially in the first round or two, that's going to be the home run of the draft?
I think, to me, Saquon Barkley, listen, Bradley Chubb makes sense to the Giants at 2. Saquon Barkley makes sense to the Giants at 2. I don't think you can, neither's a bad pick. I just think Barkley's got a chance to be really, really special. And with a wide receiver like they have in Odell Beckham Jr. and with the tight end they have in Ingram, basically a big slot receiver. If you're going with Eli, if you're going to ride with this guy, then you got to give him another weapon, I think. And they continue to try to retool that offensive line. I think it could be an upgrade over what they had a year ago in terms of the entire unit. And with Barkley, he would help make that whole offense better, and I think would give them a chance to make a significant jump in terms of win-loss next year. Other guys I think just seem like really good fits, and I think if this player was there for the team, they would wind up being the pick from everything I'm told. Roquan Smith is a really good fit, I think, at number 6 to Indianapolis. Now, Quentin, you can make an argument for Quentin Nelson there, the guard, protecting the investment with Andrew Luck, but they need a face of that defense. They need an alpha dog, a guy who's going to be the playmaker for the Indianapolis Colts and upgrade the speed of that unit. And I think Roquan Smith is one of the special players we've seen at the linebacker position in the last few years in the NFL draft. Denzel Ward would make sense to Denver if they stay there. If Chubb's not available, they don't take a quarterback and they don't move out, I think Denzel Ward would fit there. Derwin James makes a lot of sense at Tampa Bay at that number 7 pick. Number 8, I think Quentin Nelson, if he's there with Heastan, who you know very well, the offensive line coach of Notre Dame, now is the offensive line coach of the Chicago Bears. Quentin Nelson, if he's sitting there at 8, they need offensive line help. You got a young quarterback. Let's protect him. Nelson makes sense at that spot. And I think Tremaine Edmonds, Vita Vea make a lot of sense at number 10 when you get down to the Oakland Raiders. And just before them at number 9, I think Minkah Fitzpatrick would make a lot of sense as well for the San Francisco 49ers. I'll give you one more later in the first. I think Taven Bryan is a good fit for what Atlanta is looking to do at the defensive tackle position. A guy who explodes up the field, who's disruptive. He's still developing as a football player, but they lost on Terry Poe. I think if he's around when you get to Atlanta later in the first, he would be a good pick.
I agree with that one. I don't think he got a resounding backing from his coaches in some of the comments, but his get off on the ball, you're right, fits right into what Dan Quinn wants to do with that defense.
And that's why he could fall to where is Atlanta? 27, maybe 26, that range?
Atlanta's 26, yes.
26, all right.
So along those lines, you gave us a lot of names of people we know. Now, when the draft ends, I want somebody to say, oh, yeah, I remember Todd mentioned this guy. Give us a couple of players who you just didn't mention there, who may be later in the draft, the Kamaras and the Kareem Hunts, that just a couple who people are going to go, yep, Todd mentioned that guy when that guy plays well this year or next year.
Uchenna Nwosu from USC in the second round. I think he's going to be a value pick. He's not a height, weight, speed guy. Measurables are average. He's a 3-4 outside backer. Runs well. Explosive hands. I think he's just a playmaker. He's got instincts. He plays his tail off every game, and those are the guys that typically wind up outplaying their draft slot. I'll give you a name that many people probably don't know. Nathan Shepard from Fort Hays State. Could be a second-round pick, maybe early third, a little bit older prospect, dominating the small school level competition. He's got a lot of tools, and I think he's going to wind up coming off the board. Everyone's going to say, who's Nate Shepard? Nathan Shepard, Fort Hays State. He's 6'3.5", 315 pounds. He moves well, and he's to me, he's the type of guy that you can develop. The downside is he's going to be 26, I think, as a rookie, so you don't have a long time to develop him. But if he gets some good coaching early on, he could be a difference maker.
Awesome stuff as always, Todd. You can check him out again check out the First Draft podcast with him and Mel Kiper. New episodes on ESPN app and Apple Podcast. Todd, appreciate it as always. Looking forward to that first 2019 mock next week.
Way to rub it in. Way to rub it in. Already need it. Kiper's already on me about it. See you guys.
Todd,
I'm sure.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%.